Hello. Okay, so I have another message concerning the calendar, and I'm just going to go over some things I've said before, but a few new things. Okay, so the first thing is that in the oldest parts of Scripture, in the Old Testament, we see mentioned, so in the earliest parts of Scripture, we see mentioned 4 Canaanite month names. Aviv or Abib, first month, Ziv, Ethanim, Bul. All of these are believed to be Canaanite names. So in the earliest parts of Scripture, we see them using Canaanite names. So that would indicate that it's possible that the early Israelites in the time of Moses, or even beforehand, were actually using what we consider to be the Canaanite calendar. Okay. So this is again three ancient Hebrew calendars. The year apparently originally began in the fall. The year apparently originally began in the fall. The Canaanite calendar began in autumn or fall, according to this information, around our October. Now these calendars are very old calendars and date back to around the time of Moses, or possibly even beforehand, I think. Okay. The Giza calendar is one of the oldest things that they have of ancient Hebrew writing. It was found in the Canaanite city of Giza. It's a limestone tablet in Paleo-Hebrew script, and it depicts this the year. Okay, and that dates back to the time of Solomon. And if you look up in Google the oldest Hebrew calendar, this is what will come up, and that begins in autumn or fall, according to this, around our October going into November. Okay, so we see 4 Canaanite month names mentioned in the oldest parts of Scripture, and this is when the Canaanite calendars began. Okay. It wasn't till many years later, during the exile, the Jews adopted Neo-Babylonian month names. They observed a religious year that began in the spring, alongside a civil year beginning in the fall. So it wasn't till many years later, after the original Canaanite calendar, during the exile, the Jews adopted the Babylonian calendar. And this calendar is used to this day. It's Babylonian because it starts in the spring and has Babylonian names of the month. Okay? They adopted it during the exile, and it's still used to this day, and they call it the Jewish calendar. But in fact, it's Babylonian. But they still start their new year according to the original calendar that they used to use beforehand, the Canaanite calendar, the new year of the Canaanite calendar, here. Rosh Hashanah, New Year. Okay? So biblical references to pre-exile calendar, so that's before the exile, include 10 of the 12 months identified by number rather than name. Prior to the Babylonian captivity, the names of only 4 months are referred to in the Tanakh, or however you say it, Tanakh, however that's pronounced. Aviv or Abib, Ziv, Ethanim, Bul. All these are Canaanite names. See? So before the exile, they were using Canaanite names. Now, Abib is to be the beginning, Rosh, of months. It shall be the first month of the year, Shana or Hashanah to you. Abib relates to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah relates to Abib. Abib shall be the beginning. Rosh of months shall be the first month of the year. Shana or Hashanah to you. Rosh Hashanah. Abib is a Canaanite name and is the first month of the Canaanite calendar. Abib is a Canaanite name and is the first month of the Canaanite calendar. Aviv or Abib, the first month of the Canaanite calendar. Okay. Back in the time of Yahushua, during the Passover time frame, just before the Lord is taken and dies for us, and then 3 days later rises again, just before that it says in our Bibles that he passed over the stream of Kidron to go to the garden Gethsemane. Okay, so this is the Passover time frame. It's in the garden when he is betrayed and he gets taken away. Okay, so in our Bibles it says he passed over the stream of Kidron to the garden Gethsemane. But what they've left out an extremely important word in our Bibles today that you can look up for yourself in the Interlinear Bible or the Greek, the original Greek, okay? And I've gone over this in my previous video, so I'll just quickly say it again. John chapter 18, the Passover time frame, what it says is he crossed over the winter stream of Kidron. They've left out this word, and this shows the true time frame of the Passover. The winter stream of Kidron. This word literally means literally flowing in winter. So he passes over the winter stream of Kidron, or the Kidron that's literally flowing in the winter. Later, Peter follows, stands by a fire of coals, because it's cold, warming himself. Okay. He crossed over the winter stream of Kidron, or the Kidron flowing in the winter. Peter follows, stands by a fire of coals, because it's cold, warming himself. This is the time frame of the Passover, and this is winter, considered winter in Israel. Okay. Now, when is winter in Israel? It says Israel technically goes by 2 seasons: winter late October to mid-March, summer April to October, or at least around this time frame. It says winter in Israel starts October, November, so late October into November, ends in March. Winter starts in October, November, and ends in March. Okay? The Passover happened in the winter time frame, what they consider winter in Israel. Now, that matches the time frame of the beginning of the Canaanite calendar. Abib, Rosh Hashanah. Okay? It's possible that the true time of Rosh Hashanah could actually be mid to late October, depending on when the new moon is. Abib could be mid to late October, depending on when the new moon is, and overlapping into November. That's when they consider winter to begin in Israel. Passover was in the winter season, and in the month Abib, the 14th day of the month Abib. Okay, 3 days later he rose again. Okay, so an extra note, again, I'll just quickly say, about the ancient Egyptian calendar, and I'll just quickly go over that. Okay, so in ancient Egypt, in the ancient Egyptian calendar, they referred to the time frame of grain harvest as called Shemu. And it says that Shemu, the main source of information says that low water harvest or summer, or Shemu, was roughly from May to September. It goes on about how it's a rough time frame, okay, roughly the key word. So they think Shemu was around this time. Now, what's important about Shemu in the ancient Egyptian calendar is, okay, so this is the ancient Egyptian calendar. The third month of Shemu is known as Epip or Epip, and translated into Arabic, that is actually Abib, okay? Now, you can look up Epip on the internet and it will tell you that translated into Arabic, it is Abib, okay? So in ancient Egypt, Abib or Epip was the 11th month of their calendar. Then the ancient Egyptian people would begin their new year, or around the time of their new year is when the Nile would flood, okay? So then, first month of the flood, so on. So Epip or Abib happens a month or two just before the flooding of the Nile, okay, in ancient Egypt. Now, the Lord, when you look up when does the Nile flood on the internet, you're going to find a lot of conflicting information, confusing information, and just some like nonsense. The Lord told me to look up when is the rainy season in Egypt, and the rainiest months nowadays are between December, January. So I would assume if it was similar back in the time of Moses, then it's when during the rainy season when the Nile would flood. And so if it was similar back in the time of Moses, then a month or two beforehand would be Epip or Abib in the ancient Egyptian calendar. Okay, and that is the same time frame as the beginning of the Canaanite calendar. So in the ancient Egyptian calendar, Epip or Abib is the 11th month. But God says to Moses, tell the people that Abib shall be the beginning of months, it shall be the first month of the year to you, Rosh Hashanah. Okay? And so it's the 11th month of the Egyptian calendar, but the first month of the Canaanite calendar. Okay? Now we don't know, the Nile doesn't flood like it would have done back in the time of Moses because they have a dam controlling the water. But the Lord led me to look up the rainy season. If it was similar back in the time of Moses, that could have been when the Nile flooded. Okay. So again, Abib doesn't actually literally mean spring or spring season, or barley ripe meal or ear of barley like we've been taught. If you look up in the Interlinear Bible or the Strong's Concordance, Abib apparently literally means green ear of corn or fresh young ear of grain. And Abib fell in ancient Egypt's grain harvest, which was called Shemu. Okay, Shemu is grain harvest, and that's when Abib fell. Abib means ear of corn, ear of grain. Okay. Okay. So this is the current Jewish calendar that they use today, that they adopted during the exile. Okay. They call it Jewish, but in fact it's Babylonian. Starts in the spring, has Babylonian names of the month. But they still celebrate New Year here, according to the original Canaanite calendar that they used to use beforehand. Okay. So, if this is God's true biblical New Year that he told Moses to use, the true Abib, then it's from here that God's festivals would then follow. Okay? The Lord Yahushua, when he died for us and 3 days rose again, he would have kept the true Passover according to the original Passover in Egypt, okay, given to Moses. Now, what's interesting is in the current Babylonian Jewish calendar that they use today, they say the true time frame of the flood was here, okay, around here. In ancient times, this was the true time frame of the flood. Now, if that be the case, Moses wrote the book of Genesis, so he was writing from his understanding of the calendar that God gave him. And he said the flood happened in the 17th day. It began on the 17th day of the second month. So if they say this is the true time frame of the flood, then that would be the second month, according to Moses. So that means the month beforehand would be the first month, Abib. Do you see? So it's around this time frame. So if this is God's true biblical New Year, then his festivals would follow from here. Now what I believe that they've done is, even though they still celebrate New Year in the 7th month of the current Jewish Babylonian calendar, Abib is a Canaanite name and is the beginning of the Canaanite calendar. Nisan is a Babylonian name and is the beginning of the Babylonian calendar. Okay. The Babylonian year began in the spring, and so in the Babylonian calendar, Nisan was the first month, whereas the old Canaanite calendar year began in the fall. Okay. So Abib is a Canaanite name and is the first month of the Canaanite calendar. Nisan is a Babylonian name as the first month of the Babylonian calendar. Now what they've done is, even though they still start New Year here, which is technically the true Abib, the deception is they've moved Abib to the beginning of the Babylonian calendar and said that Abib literally means spring. But it actually doesn't mean spring, it means ear of corn or ear of grain. Okay? And so they have moved God's festivals to the beginning of the Babylonian calendar, and so God's festivals follow from the beginning of the Babylonian calendar now. Instead of following from the beginning of the Canaanite calendar, the true Abib. And therefore, they have corrupted all the timing of God's true biblical festivals. Okay, Abib is a Canaanite name and is the beginning of the Canaanite calendar, and so all God's festivals follow from the first month of Abib. Abib isn't a Babylonian name. Nisan is a Babylonian name, the first month of the Babylonian calendar. Do you see? So, if all God's festivals follow Rosh Hashanah, New Year, Abib, so all God's festivals should follow New Year, Rosh Hashanah, Abib. Okay? So if this is the true time frame of Abib, and this is what God is showing us, and this is what he's led us to, then there is a reason he wants us to know these things, okay? So if this is month 1, within maybe October overlapping into November, so month 1 around here, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, month 6, month 7, it's in here where those 3 really important festivals in the 7th month happen, okay? The first day of the 7th month is Yom Teruah. The 10th day of the 7th month is Day of Atonement, and the 15th day of the 7th month is the Festival of Tabernacles, or Sukkot, and that goes for 8 days. And maybe I'll talk about it in another video about those festivals and the overlapping of the corrupt calendar in more detail, but the point is, it's around this time frame in the original Canaanite calendar, which would have been the 7th month, around this time frame at the very least. And what I find interesting about that is the exact time frame when the fig tree puts forth its leaves. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and puts forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when you see all these things, know that he is near, even at the doors. He says, when the fig tree puts forth leaves, he is near at the doors. In the 7th month of the Canaanite calendar is when the fig tree puts forth its leaves. Okay. Now that was the point of all this message, was to just show that the 7th month is here, when the fig tree puts forth its leaves. Now, he is near at the doors. So does that mean he's going to come here? Could he come beforehand? Could he come afterwards? I don't know. But he tells us to watch. And that's just what I felt like I had to say for now. Okay. So be encouraged, his beautiful bride. He's encouraging us, and he will come at that perfect appointed time, whenever it is. We are in that time. Okay. It's everywhere around us. The whole world is telling us we are in that time. We are closer than ever to him coming. No one knows when he's going to come, but we're told to watch. So be encouraged, his beautiful bride. Okay. God bless you. Bye.